If you think AI is a magic wand, you ask questions like, can it run my office? Can it replace this employee? Can I just connect it to anything and let it go? But if you think AI is a tool, the questions change. What exact job am I giving it? What information does it need? What should it never do by itself? Who checks the output before anything important happens? That is how serious AI use starts. Now, the reason AI is such an unusual tool is that it is not like a hammer or a forklift. It is a tool for certain kinds of thinking work. It can read, compare, summarize, draft, classify, reformat, flag, and prepare. It is good at helping turn a messy pile of language into a cleaner starting point. That is valuable, very valuable. But value is not the same thing as judgment. Let me make that concrete. Say you run a small business and a customer sends a long email complaining about a late delivery, a damaged item, and billing mistakes all in the same message. AI can absolutely help here. It can break the email into issues, it can draft a calm reply, it can extract the order numbers, the shipping compliant, and the refund request. It can even suggest what information is still missing. This is useful, but should it design the final tone of the response for a high-value customer? Should it choose whether you refund, replace, or push back? Should it decide how much blame your company accepts? No. That is not because AI is worthless. That is because those decisions carry business judgment, relationship judgment, and sometimes legal or reputational consequences. So yes, let AI prepare. No, don't let it own. Here is something that should be said much more clearly in AI conversations. When AI helps produce something, accountability does not move to the AI. It stays with you. If it misses an exception and you approve the recommendation, you approved it. If it gives a polished answer to a weak question, the polish does not make it safe. That cuts both sides. A careful operator becomes faster. A sloppy operator becomes dangerous faster. That is why the right business question is usually not, can AI do this whole job? The better question is, which part of this work contains repetitive thinking that can be safely assisted or reviewed or handed back to a human? That is where a lot of real opportunity lives. Think about how much time inside the business gets burned into small things. Somebody has to reread a long email thread just to find one date. Someone has to compare two versions of a contract. Someone has to pull details of an email and turn that into one clean summary. Someone has to check what is missing before the real decision can even start. That work is not always intellectually interesting, but it is expensive because it's constant. That is where AI often fits best. Here's another example. Imagine a shop gets a request from a custom coat. The customer sends a rough description, maybe a drawing, maybe a measurement, maybe a deadline, maybe half the details are missing. The experienced estimator still has to decide whether the job is feasible, what the risk is, how to price it, and whether the timeline is realistic. AI should not replace that person. But AI can prepare a much better starting point. What was actually requested? What details are missing? What looks unusual? What past jobs seem similar? What follow-up questions need to be asked before anyone commits? That is AI being a tool. Not run the business for me, not replace the estimator, not just give it access and hope, a defined job inside the workflow with a human owner. And this also explains why so many people get disappointed with generic chatbot use. An out-of-the-box chatbot does not know your pricing logic, your approval chain, your customer history, and your edge cases, or the expensive lesson your team learned 3 years ago and you never want to relearn. So people try it on real work and say, that feels shallow. Sometimes they are right. But the lesson is not that AI can never work in business. The lesson is that context and control have to be designed. If you start the system of context, it gives generic output. If you give it unlimited access, you create a different kind of risk. The serious answer is to write it correctly, enough context to do the job, and clear boundaries around what it can see, what it can write, and what it can trigger. I don't want to turn this episode into a product discussion, but it is important to say the problem is solvable. Now, let me go one step farther because this is where credibility comes from. AI is not always the right tool. A lot of people in AI media spend all their time showing where AI looks impressive. AI looks impressive. I think this is just as important to say where it does not belong. There are tasks where AI is a strong fit. Fast-pass summaries, pulling key points from documents, checking whether an intake is missing information, drafting an internal update from a pile of notes. Those are usually fine because they are repetitive. The inputs are somewhat structured and a human can still review the output. Then there are tasks where AI should assist but not decide. Contract review is a good example. AI can compare versions, highlight changes, flag unusual clauses, and surface questions. This is useful. But if the question is, should we accept this term with this client in this relationship at this moment, this is no longer just a text problem. This is a business decision. Same with employee issues. If you have a sensitive personal situation, AI may help you organize notes or draft a cleaner summary for internal review, but it should not be the thing deciding how to handle a conflict between two real people inside a real company. And then there are tasks where AI is actually the wrong tool, at least at that stage. Anything that depends mostly on unwritten institutional knowledge, anything requiring moral judgment, anything where a confident wrong answer is more dangerous than a slow correct one. In those cases, adding AI too early does not accelerate understanding. It accelerates confusion. This connects to a bigger problem. AI does not remove the need for management. It increases the need for management clarity. AI does not eliminate expertise. It amplifies expertise, and it also amplifies the lack of that. AI does not fix weak process. It punishes weak process faster. If nobody agrees on what the workflow is, AI will not save you. If the inputs are chaotic, the ownership is vague, and nobody can define what a good output looks like, it's not really automation. It is acceleration without the steering. This is why so many AI projects disappoint. Not because the models are useless, because the surrounding system was never made clear enough for the tool to fit into. So if you're trying to think correctly about AI, whether as an owner, a manager, or an employee, I would suggest do not start by asking, what can this model do? Start by asking, where does messy information pile up? Where do people repeatedly read, compare, summarize, and triage the same kind of things? Where do small delays create bigger downstream delays? Where does a person still needs final judgment but not necessarily first pass prep? Those questions will get you much farther than chasing whatever tool is trending this week. Because the business that benefits most from AI will not be the ones that touches the most AI products. They will be the ones that learn how to assign AI a real job. Read this, compare these, find what is missing, prepare the draft, flag the exceptions, hand it back, and this kind of tools. That is tool thinking. And tool thinking is what turns AI from a novelty into an operating asset. So no, AI is not a magic wand. It is something more practical than that. It is a tool for certain kind of thinking work. It can be fast, patient, and consistent. But like any serious tool, it still needs a job. It still needs context, boundaries, and an accountable operator. If you remember one sentence from this episode, let it be this: AI is only as good as the job that I give to it, the context I connect to it, and the judgment I apply to what it produces. This is the difference between using AI as a trick and using it as part of a real business. Next episode, we go one level deeper. What good automation actually means when you stop thinking in magic and start thinking in systems. Thank you, and catch you guys in the next one.